Segment number 5 then introduces comedian Richie Tozer, aka the Ginger Kid, who is played by none other than Seth Green. Bet you didn't know that, did you? We then see him backstage of a live television show where he gets a phone call. We then see him back at his house in Beverly Hills, California, where he is explaining to his agent that he has to leave for a few days. His agent then storms off and Richie has a quick flashback of a werewolf. He then runs into the toilet and throws up.
They felt it spread, hot and cold.
He continues to rest on the toilet seat as he flashes back again. This time we see young Richie hanging with his friends at the Barrens. They then get told to stick together by a passing police officer who spots the dam they have built in the stream. We then see him in the school's cafeteria where he is approached by the hard nut wannabes. He then throws his dinner at them and rushes into William B. Davis, better known as CSM from the X-Files. He then furiously tells him to go and get a mop from the janitor, Mr. Marsh. Yes, Beverly's dad. Richie then goes looking for the janitor, but he's not in his office. So naturally he goes and looks for him in the dark and creepy basement. He then sees something moving, but is it Mr. Marsh? No, of course it's not. It's a werewolf, or should I say Pennywise the Clown. And at first he doesn't seem that bothered. That's until it grabs him and then he starts to yell. Now forgive me if I'm wrong, but surely he would have seen that it was a werewolf long before we did. I mean, just watch how long it takes him.
I had a little accident in the cafeteria.
It's not like his eyes are the camera lens. He doesn't start from the legs and work his way up. He should have seen it was a werewolf as soon as it stepped out the dark. His acting's a load of crap too. Seth Green, you disappoint me. Anyway, the werewolf lets him go and Richie runs away briefly before turning around and seeing Pennywise.
Beep, beep, Richie. I'll show you how to slow down.
Pennywise then shows off his teeth again as Richie runs away, calling for help. He then tells everyone in the lunch hall that there's a werewolf in the basement, and as you'd expect, they all just laugh at him. Well, all except the other 6 who just look at each other worried. Why does he even say there's a werewolf in the basement? The last thing he saw was a clown, so he knows the werewolf weren't real. Unless he believes, you know, that the werewolf disguised itself as a clown. But even then, how comes he didn't mention Pennywise? Maybe he didn't want to look like a prat crying clown. But still, crying wolf didn't exactly help his situation either, did it? We then see him in bed shivering with fear as the flashback ends, merging into his older self, still resting on the toilet. And so we've sunk back down to the level of the second and the third segments. Just when the fourth was starting to redeem the film a bit, along comes the fifth. Terrible. It's just boring. There's no critical plot points and no decent scares. Pennywise again doesn't get enough airtime. As for the character himself, he sucks. There's not even a real character development because by this point in the film we already know who he is and what he's like. It's pointless. It sucks. Moving along now to segment number 6, where we finally get to know who the concerned citizen and the one calling all the others really is. He's librarian and town dweller Mike. He takes some pills, pulls out a photo and has a flashback. Nice and simple. We're then shown young Mike in class showing off his photo album from the past. He then walks uptown where he runs into the hard nut wannabes. They take his book and threaten him with a firework. As a man from across the street then tells him to stop, Mike quickly grabs his book and legs it down the road. And of course, the wannabes chase him. He rushes into a construction site where he meets the rest of the gang. He asks for their help and they oblige. They start to throw rocks at the wannabes and bring the leader down. However, he throws a rock back and hits Beverly straight in the arm. And Ben doesn't like that one bit. Cue the music. So the wannabes then run away, but not before the leader threatens the gang once more.
I'll kill you all!
That's then followed by this poorly synchronised shot that drags on far too long.
Why are you guys anywhere?
We're sort of a club. Yeah, the Losers Club.
Yeah.
You want in?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Hey, we're 7 now. Lucky 7.
What the hell were they thinking? Dialogue's supposed to flow naturally to make it believable, but not here. Each kid clearly waits for the camera to be in their face before saying their line, and the time it takes the camera to pan makes pauses in the dialogue, and the pauses are far too long to be seen as realistic. It's dreadful. Personally, I would have positioned the actors in such a way where I'd only have to move the camera once or twice. In other words, putting the first lot of actors that talk on the same bloody side. Useless. Unbelievable. So he then takes a photo of him and the rest of the Lucky 7 together. They then sit down and go through his photo album, where they discover drawings of Pennywise the Clown. The book's pages then turn themselves to a photo of an old street. The photo then comes to life, and of course then appears Pennywise himself.
I'll drive you crazy and I'll kill you all. I'm every nightmare you ever had. I am your worst dream come true. I'm everything you ever were afraid of.
He then reaches through the book, so they throw it on the floor. They then hug and think of a plan. We then return to Mike as an adult, where he wakes from his flashback just to find muddy footprints on the floor. My God, haven't these people heard of wiping their feet before they come in? He then looks over and sees a yellow balloon. It pops in his face and the clown's laugh is heard. Well, this guy's not winning any Oscars. Just look how he squints his eyes, waiting for the balloon to pop. And look at that reaction. It sucks. Overall, this segment is just... no. Just no. This segment is the worst. It's the worst in plot, it's the worst in scares. It sucks. It's not even good. But then again, what part of this film is?
I'll drive you crazy and I'll kill you all.
Other than him. So finally, we reach segment number 7, where we're shown Stan, the Jewish Boy Scout, as a grown man. He's reading the newspaper whilst his wife watches TV. He then starts to get intimate with her, just before getting a phone call from Mike. He puts the phone down and goes to have a bath. As he undresses, he has none other than a flashback. We then see young Stan with the gang target practicing with some bottles that like to grow back when smashed. They then go to the swamp house and then head for the sewers. The hard nut wannabes then follow them and split up to corner them off. However, one of them is killed by a bright light that trails under the floorboards and fires towards him. Shortly after, Stan is easily caught by the other 2 wannabes, but it's okay, he seems to find it funny. They then threaten him and begin to tear off the buttons from his shirt one by one. Not the buttons! Anything but the buttons! A beam of light then blasts through a large pipe and consumes one of the wannabes. Stan then runs away, leaving the leader of the wannabes behind. The leader's hair then turns white as he watches the light in shock. Stan then runs back to the others. They all hold hands and duck as a weird light object floats over their heads. The room then fills with fog as they gather in a circle. They all start hallucinating about Bill's dead brother, Beverly's dad, and the werewolf from the basement. Stan then looks beside him just to suddenly see Pennywise standing there. The clown then grabs him and holds him against the wall. He then goes to eat him, but Stan seems to find that funny. Eddie then steps up and sprays his inhaler into the clown's face, causing it to somehow melt. They then fire a solid silver earring at its head, causing it to crack open with a beam of light shooting out. Pennywise then jumps into the drain hole to escape, but the kids grab his hand. His hand then goes through some dramatic changes before finally disappearing. The group then convince themselves that they've killed it, but vow to return to kill it again if it ever comes back. And at the beginning, did I say that all 7 return? I lied. Only 6 do. You see, because this segment ends differently to the others. Stan's wife goes into the bathroom and finds him dead after slitting his wrists. With his blood is spelt the words "it." His wife then curses as the segment comes to a close. So there we are, all 7 segments done. And overall, I'd say the best was probably the last, just for the fact that the fear factor was a lot higher. I mean, just one look at that face is enough to give you nightmares. There was also other weird moments that may not have made much sense, but they were at least entertaining. And in a film that's been lacking entertainment, it's good to have them. I've just noticed. The 7 segments are only in the first half of the film. There's still another half to talk about yet.